this heaven? No. It's Iowa.
From high school to international wrestling, on the mat and beyond, this is the Potentially Dangerous Podcast with the guys from IA Wrestle.
If you're a fighter, you like a fight. If you're an American, you like a fight. If you're an Iowa Hawkeye, you know you're going to get a fight.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and all your podcast-friendly apps. And follow us on social media platforms at IA Wrestle. Time to strap it up and get to the show.
Good to be here.
So, man, things have been crazy for you, I imagine, here with this program, new facilities. When did you step on campus, and what's it been like since then?
So my first day in Iowa was April, I think 18th, the day we had that big snowstorm in the middle of April.
Yeah.
So my family moved here from Ohio through the blizzard, which is pretty funny. But that was a great welcoming to Iowa, welcoming back, I guess.
Back.
And, yeah, man. And so right from then I started working. Shortly after that, I took over the women's program as well. So I'm going to be dealing with both the men and the women, which is pretty cool. And basically since that day, the very next morning, I woke up and started doing stuff. So we have a facility that we're getting finished up and recruiting and kind of just getting used to being around the administration and the staff and faculty. It's awesome.
So Iowa Wesleyan was Division III, right? And now, are you guys official NAIA? You guys are petitioning,
no,
or
we're
what's
Division
that?
III, yeah. So
Yep.
we are. There's not really much to talk about on that just
Okay.
yet. We're applying for membership.
Okay.
Right now we're Division III. We're going to wrestle Division III this year. We're non-conference, so we'll qualify for the national championships through regional only.
Okay, so
Yep.
no American Rivers Conference, nothing like that. Just your own.
Nope, that's
okay.
it. Yeah.
How's scheduling going for that?
It's all right. I mean, it's tough. This year won't be ideal. You know, I did come into the scheduling portion of things a little late, but it's fine. We got some good matches and good matchups, and I'm pretty excited about some of the opens that we're getting into. So it'll be good. When I got there, they had already hired a coach, Coach Powell. He's not there any longer. So there were some things that were done. They were going in the right direction. But when I hit campus, we had a vision of what we wanted to see done. That meshed really well with Derek Zander, who's vice president in charge of advancement and athletics now. So it was really a good situation. I came in there and part of the schedule was put together for the men and the women. The facility was kind of being outlined, but because of COVID, it was slow motion, right? So we kind of got what we could do done. Then we really hit the recruiting trail as far as it goes, and tried to get some people on board to come and be part of the staff. So that's kind of the small things that we did moving forward, and now we're like all gas, no brakes, getting the facility done and finishing up the things we can do. No, but we will. I mean, we're always looking for donations and stuff like that. Obviously, being a small school, we don't have the pocketbook of a University of Iowa or Penn State or anybody like that, Ohio State. So we're always going to try and do some extra fundraising and stuff like that. We're really fortunate to be backed by Adidas Wrestling, and so that's good because they're very helpful, especially for new programs. There's no tradition at this point because we're brand new, right?
Yeah.
We had wrestling in the 70s, but not since then. So we're really fortunate to be able to kind of lay the groundwork and start our own traditions right now.
Yeah. What kind of hands-on have you been with that?
Well, the beauty of it is I've been 100% hands-on. Honestly, I've been painting that facility. Other coaches from other sports have helped paint the facility. We have a subcontracted company, National, that's on campus doing the rest of our finishing up stuff. But my wife and I ripped up flooring. We built walls, so it's been really awesome. As far as the branding goes, I was very fortunate to be around Cody Sanderson, who is meticulous when it comes to detail and that kind of thing. I was also helpful in building the weight room in Penn State when we remodeled. So I have an idea of what we want it to look like and how I feel the athletes want to see it. We're looking at efficiency and cost effectiveness. So with that being said, we're trying to do the best we can for the money we got.
All right. Oh, okay. Hopefully. Sorry about that. Thanks for the heads up, Lance. So they've just been able to hear you, man, but that's good. You're the one with all the answers, but trying to, right?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
That's it.
So
It's all about the effort.
Thank you, Lance, for giving, let me know what's going on here. So, so back to facilities, not very many campuses though have what you guys got going on though. Once it gets done, it will be a unique thing that a lot of schools don't get to have.
Absolutely. We're very fortunate and, dare I say blessed to have this, the potential to have a high level facility. It's a standalone wrestling facility. We got locker rooms, Lars came and kind of walked through the place and all told, it's going to be really nice, man. It's going to be for some small Division I school is going to be pretty nice. We have very nice wrestling area. We have the potential to have recruits come in a conference room. We have a kitchenette and laundry, everything on site right there. So, it's going to be pretty cool for a small school in the middle of, a small community to have something like that. And we know that, and we're going to work to make those people that have given to our program and supported us very proud.
Yeah, I mean, it already is apparent that for a school that doesn't have really a whole lot of tradition and probably no alumni as far as wrestling goes, right. I mean, that's not easy in the sport of wrestling just to have a facility like you do. So if you haven't had a chance, go check that out. That's on our Rockfin page as well. There's some stuff on Facebook as well. You can kind of take a little bit of a tour through the facilities. When is the official date that you're going to have like people kind of walk through open house, or what's the goal?
So we have ribbon cutting on October 24th, which is our football homecoming weekend.
Right.
And we're hoping to get some people to come to that, but we'll be in that facility in the next 4 weeks.
Okay.
We're working on getting our mats delivered and stuff like that. So everything should be painted and the carpet should be laid and all that stuff pretty soon. And then, 4 to 6 weeks, the mats will be arriving. So, that's what we're looking at. August 1, we should be ready to rock, but
okay.
The ribbon cutting will be October 24th.
What does the roster look like right now? What did you inherit there? Because the coach was there, right?
Right.
Many kids on campus?
We didn't have many. We have 0 kids on campus right now. We are guaranteed opening on our start date. The president's done a very good job of making sure that we're going to be safe, and the students, and not just the student athletes, but all students that come to Wesleyan are going to be,
COVID free.
Yeah. And so, so that's a cool thing. To make sure that we're solid there, but I don't know, man. I think we're gonna be solid and ready to go with the start of school. I mean, we're looking at getting everybody in there and active around the first week of August.
Okay, so who are so the roster?
Oh yeah, the roster. Yeah, well, so we
have done a lot of work here.
Yeah, man. We're looking at like 54 commits.
Wow.
Right. Men and women.
Yeah.
But we have, I think 42 deposited athletes. So in Division III, there's no real national letter of intent, right? So when you get an athlete to deposit, that's kind of like guaranteeing their spot in the school. That doesn't mean that they can't back out at a later time and get their refund and all that stuff. That's possible. But at this point, we have 42 committed deposited athletes, men and women. It's pretty cool.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of kids for short work.
Yeah, well,
especially during COVID too. So,
man, we're working. We didn't come here to sit down or rest or any of that stuff. From the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, I'm, till the time my wife tells me turn my phone off.
Yeah.
I'm going.
So did you? Where are a lot of these kids coming from? Are they? Because you've got connections kind of a little bit all over the country a little bit with you being traveling so much. Did you have some connection with some high school coaches to get you some guys and girls? Absolutely.
We did have some people that were already committed here. We didn't have that many, obviously we've been doing some work on getting them deposited and committed, but we're looking at Iowa kids first. And then I've been in Ohio, I've been in Pennsylvania, South Dakota is a good spot too, because we can get some of those kids, from the eastern part or the western part of South Dakota to not go so far away from home. But our hot zone is Southeast Iowa and overall the state, because this is, it's wrestling crazy state. We love it. And that's really why I came here, is because we want to be able to keep kids in the state of Iowa and wrestle here and give them as many opportunities to stay home or close to home at least and compete at a high level.
Yeah, Southeast Iowa is kind of an untapped or underappreciated part of the state, honestly, as far as talent goes. Most people think of Central or North or Northeast Iowa. I guess we've done some stat breakdowns of kind of where the kids are coming from, and Southeast Iowa is really an untapped market.
Right.
Then also Indian Hills is down, so you guys are having some competition down there. Right. But I got to imagine as a wrestling coach, that's also, they got a new facility coming.
Exactly.
So got to imagine for you, a huge step. One is to get a team, a roster filled so you can compete. Right. But two, like get your coaching filled. And that was announced today.
Absolutely.
So I got to imagine you're pretty pumped to make that official here. So why don't you talk a little bit about your coaches that you got in now?
Absolutely. This is a great day for our program, honestly. With the addition of Jake Cadle and Stephen Holloway and Cash Wilkie, I mean, what can you say about these guys? You got 3 former Hawkeye athletes who are going to bring the mindset, the mentality, the work ethic, and the success that they've all experienced in this state to a small college. And I mean that says a lot right there. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we all get along very well and we've talked, and it's going to be fun getting to know Cash and Steve, every day more. Jake and I actually coached together last year while he was finishing his master's at University of Toledo. He worked with my high school program that I was with last year, so we see things a lot alike. It's going to be pretty cool to meld the style that I bring from, Cale Sanderson's kind of mindset and stuff to bring the Hawkeyes in, kind of mash that together. The only kind of, I guess, thought that I have on that would be more like Henry Cejudo when he was, when Terry was training him and he still had that low single like Oklahoma State style in the 2008 Olympics. That he also came out to Iowa State and trained with those guys a little bit and got his Cejudo blind, where he would turn that guy's head off of Cale and Coach Douglas at that time. So that's kind of how I see this, as a mashup of 2 styles that are very highly successful and mindsets as well. And we're going to bring that all to Mount Pleasant. So that's really exciting for me. They've obviously had great success. All of those guys won state titles and were state finalists multiple times. They all came from the brand's mindset of training and the hand fighting and the physical nature of the wrestling room at Iowa. And, Cash has one of the best misdirection singles I've ever seen, next to maybe Kadukov from Russia, and Holloway's loves to train, and his pace is really high, and he's wrestled in big high-level matches, Minnesota guys, Penn State, Ohio State. He wrestled Snyder. So, I mean, that's awesome. And then Jay Cato has one of the best feels I've had on the mat. The way he feels pressure and then releases and then attacks reminds me a lot of the way Cale wrestled. He just gets at it from little different angles, right? And Jake's mind is very, high level when it comes to technique, and off the mat, if he doesn't have an answer, he'll run that down. So those are the things that I'm excited about bringing to our program in the wrestling room and in the office as well. So, I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am for that.
So it sounds like you had a relationship with Jake. Was he kind of a package deal when you took the position? Do you know right away that he was going to be your guy, or how'd that all fall in place?
Well, that was my hope. Coach Powell was there. Eventually I was going to like to bring Jake in anyway. He's from New London, and so he won his state title there and wrestled in that area. But Coach Powell was there, and so we were just working within the system that we had. Coach Powell left. And that opened the door for this to be, really, gotcha. Really good fit. And I was really happy when Jake, was offered this job.
So Jake taking the job, and then Steve and Wilkie. I mean, did he have a connection with those two, or was the job open and those are just the applicants that came in, or how'd this all kind of? You said you guys get along really well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're all kind of, crazy, wrestling crazy for sure. But yeah, Jake was instrumental in getting those guys. Him and Cash had a very good relationship. Holloway's from West Burlington, which is close, and wrestled for Mediapolis in high school. So, I mean, But those connections were made through Jake, and it worked out really well. I wanted those guys because obviously sitting here, I'm a little guy, so I can wrestle with the little guys and up to maybe like, small 149s, where then Jake could take over and wrestle from 149 up to, maybe small 165s. And then we need guys that are going to be able to go with bigger guys. So we have someone to wrestle with everyone on our team. And that includes the women as well, right? Because we're going to be coaching them and we're going to be working freestyle and stuff with them as well, doing one-on-ones. So I wanted a staff assembled to be able to roll with everybody in our room. And this is ideal.
So wanted you to kind of touch on this is a Hawkeye fan favorite state. It's crazy here.
I know that's right.
Wrestling in general is crazy here. Obviously, you know that.
Yes, sir.
You're gonna if you don't know, you're gonna know soon. But like so, they've seen Holloway and Wilkie competing for the Hawkeyes here as athletes,
Right.
but coaching experience. They don't have a whole lot, correct?
Correct.
So what are some aspects of, let's just say with Holloway, that you like, that you think that he's going to be a valuable asset to your program?
Great question. I think specifically with Steven, it's going to be, his mindset of training. He loves to train. He's coaching CrossFit. He works at a gym right now. And getting our upper weights to kind of have that mindset, pushing the pace. The way he wrestles is very athletic and he's super strong. Stays in good shape. I think that's going to be a good look for our upper weights. Honestly, like I said, this is going to be a true mashup of the two styles, right? The Penn State type of style with the Iowa type of style kind of merged together. So we're going to be looking to open them up and score a lot of points and be real physical at the same time and push people around in a good way. But, we want that kind of mingling of the two mindsets and the two styles of wrestling. And I think especially with the upper weights, it's easier when you're a little guy and you can fly all over the mat. But I think Holloway brings that ability to our upper weights, and we got some good upper weights. We have hit the recruiting trail pretty hard for our heavyweights and our lightweights, really. So we can start off good and end good. And I think that with him working with those guys it's going to bump them to another level. And I'm very excited to see our upper weights compete because of that. And the same thing with our middle upper weights with Cash. Like I said, I think Cash probably has some unfinished business, right? And I think he's going to be a very good coach in his time. I think that was part of the attraction to have him come train here. Obviously, having Jake here and their relationship prior, and Holloway being here, and being close to Iowa City, all of those things played a part. It's very beneficial individually for Cash Wilkie to be at Iowa Wesleyan. But what no matter what we offer him, there's no way we can return what he offers us. And having him be a workout partner, and both of those guys being so close to their competition life still, just being able to relate, those good habits and how they lead up to competitions, what it takes to recover, because that's a big thing nowadays too, right? Having the total package in a facility, having the recovery plan in place, right? Chiropractic, massage therapist, foam rolling, like these things are important. And having those guys be able to pass those little tidbits along to our wrestlers is going to be vital to our success.
Now you have a background in strength and conditioning. Is that what you were doing at Iowa State?
I was a volunteer assistant at Iowa State, and then when we went to Penn State, it kind of I fit into that position there.
Okay.
Yep.
So with Holloway's CrossFit mindset and stuff like that, do you guys have a strength and conditioning coach that does all the sports that will kind of trickle into wrestling, or are you guys going to handle all that?
We're going to do all that ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty, and by pretty I mean 100% confident in the fact that we're going to get our wrestlers ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah, at this point. If the school decides at some point that they want to hire someone, that would be a conversation we would have later. But again, I'm very, very confident that we can handle the wrestling.
Do you this is all kind of one thing that I noticed when I was in college with our strength and conditioning coach is there seemed to be, and maybe this is why you guys are doing it, I'm just curious because I haven't had this conversation with anybody, is there seemed to be kind of a disconnect with the strength and conditioning coach, and not necessarily our coaches, but the athletes, like my teammates. Like I don't know if we just didn't respect the strength and conditioning coach because it didn't seem like we were doing wrestling stuff.
Right.
Is that something that happens, or is that just me, my personal?
I think it goes from place to place, right? You notice the guys at Oklahoma State, Jordan Oliver even said something about it last week about their guy at Okie State, that they loved him. He's a really big wrestling fan, so he does a lot of wrestling stuff. But majority of strength coaches are football guys, right? Or hockey guys, right? And so we're doing a lot of pushing, we're doing a lot of overhead stuff, which is counterproductive to what wrestling really needs. I mean, realistically, we don't need to be beating our shoulders up in the weight room. We're getting them grinded out, stalling on single legs or head outside shots, and they're ripping our shoulders to bits. If we're going to go and do that for 5 days a week, 6 to 10 hours a day, just getting stuck underneath, and then have to go in there and start pressing heavyweight or lightweight for maximum reps over our head, we're going to get injured. So I'm of the mindset of I'm a wrestler, so I'm going to train wrestlers the way wrestlers need to be trained. And a lot of strength coaches, their egos get involved too. I mean, they're humans just like everybody else. So of course they come up with a program that's maximum strength, maximum power, whatever it might be. But that's for somebody that's trying to get bigger, stronger, and faster, where we're trying to get stronger, faster, maybe not bigger. Maybe we're trying to get smaller, or maybe we are trying to put on a little bit of weight. But the football mindset is kind of wrestling and football go together well because they're the polar opposites, right? In football, you want to do a lot of pushing. You're not going to be pulling guys down. Mm-hmm. In wrestling, it's kind of the opposite. We're going to do very, very little pushing, but we're going to do it one arm at a time, and we're going to do a lot more pulling. So when we develop the strength program for our athletes, we're going to have a base for every single person in there. But then as time wears on, and I'm talking about like weeks or months, or maybe we'll go through phase 1 and then get into phase 2 and be like, okay, this person needs this person needs this, and we'll start individualizing the programs. When I was at Penn State, that was the beauty of it. We had a base program for all of our wrestlers, but at the time, Quentin Wright needed to do something different. Frank Molinaro is not going to do the different things Quentin Wright's going to do. They're just body type. They're different. And so Nico was following Frank around at that time. So Nico Megalous would do some benching after practice with Frank, or David Taylor might not be able to squat today. So he would be doing the pit shark or doing deadlifts or whatever the situation might be. The Altons may be doing, may not be doing any chest because their shoulders are sore this week, or their neck, whatever it might be. So we'll individualized programs for our athletes, and having myself and having Steve Holloway in the room to be able to do that maximizes our efficiency on the mat immediately.
Yeah, no, that's and having that constant contact, I think, is going to be big for any program. So you don't have that outside person. Some of the bigger programs can have a specific strength and conditioning coach, and that's all they do. Not every program can do that. So especially the D3 level and maybe NAI at some point. But all right, so first off, having 3 assistants is a big deal at Division III. Sure. And then maybe at the NAI level if that comes down the pipeline. But looking forward, right now you're tackling both programs, men's and women's program. Mm-hmm. What is like the 3-5 year plan? Are you planning to keep your name on both of them, or do you think that you guys will hire a women's coach? What's your thoughts, long term for that, or do you think you can manage it?
I think it's going to be manageable.
Okay.
The beauty of it is it's wrestling. And so as a team and as a university, we want to have the same message put out from the men and the women. There's not men's wrestling, women's wrestling at Iowa Wesleyan. It's just the wrestling program. We're one family with one message, and we're going to do the same things, both men and women, even though the women are wrestling freestyle. So we're going to run similar practices. What's going to be different logistically? We're talking about parterre versus referees, quad pod defense and offense versus, reversals and turns, mat control is kind of similar, but in freestyle, you're going to score. So we're going to use that as a scoring tactic. Transitions, what's the differences? It's still wrestling. It's just going to be strategically and tactically we'll have differences. So as long as the message, and obviously the strength training is going to be a little different because physiologically men and women differ a little bit, but we want the women to train at an extremely high level. And I think if you see Helen Maroulis wrestling with Kendall Cross or Jordan Burroughs, when she was training for the Olympics and stuff like that, that's going to be important for us to get our women where we want them to be. That's a very important step for us, and getting women on the national team and the U23 team and getting them in the mix to make Olympic teams is our goal. So we want women that are willing to come in and train hard and get that mindset, you know, be very aggressive and try and score points in bunches and be smart about their training and conditioning. So I don't think that a lot doesn't really change, you know what I mean, other than the time on the road recruiting.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I get worried about when programs, coaches try to do both, and then also schedule wise, you know. So I know that I talked with William Penn a little bit, and so they're NAIA, and they're trying to, you know, schedule home duels, men and women.
Sure.
You know, tournaments are I would think tournaments would be a little bit different too, of how you manage those. So I guess that question doesn't come more from a place of teaching or coaching differently, but as far as managing it, just straight, you know, logistic wise.
Sure.
You know?
So this is a prime example. Our women's first competition is November 7th at Waldorf. Our men's first competition is Iowa State Open in Ames, November 8th.
Okay.
So we're going to have 2 coaches go to Waldorf, and then someone's going to drive them back, and then one of the coaches is going to go up to Ames, and the rest of the people and then the other coach will come up and meet us in Ames the next day. So there are things that are happening that are going to be, you know, tough on us, but we didn't sign up because it was easy. You know what I mean? We're not doing this because it was easy. Management wise, I feel like, you know, and this is the same as being an athlete, right? This is the beauty of wrestling. It teaches you how to manage your time, and sometimes you got to make sacrifices if that's a thing you believe in. I think it's just a matter of choices, right? So I don't believe there's anything sacrificial. If you want something bad enough, you're willing to put everything else aside to get what you really want. And so it's an easy decision. You know, do we want the women to be going in the same direction as the men? Then we need to plan for that. We need to be organized in our decision making and make sure that that's in the front of the decisions, right? That has to be a conversation we have all the time. Now in the future, we will have a women GA on campus as well. And so then it'll be, you know, easier to have them confide in that person if they're not comfortable talking to a man. Also, my wife is a director of operations and office management, and she'll be in the office all the time. My daughters, I have 4 daughters, they'll be around all the time. So when I tell you it's actually a family atmosphere, it's not just with us. Every time we sign a new recruit or we get a deposit in, we welcome them to the Tiger family. So that's real. For them, it's concrete. It's not like conceptual at all. It is real. They're coming from all over right now, you know, and so we want to make sure that the people from Florida or California or France or Germany or Italy or, you know what I mean, wherever they're coming from, come home to Mount Pleasant and they're good there. Their families back home know that they're being taken care of, you know, and that they're getting that same feel. They're not going to get homesick because they're fine being home in Mount Pleasant as well. So that goes, like I said, for the women to get a woman GA in there in the next year or two as well would be ideal for them to have that kind of connection as well.
Your wife is the director of ops, man.
So listen to this.
I'm like, how did this all happen?
Her title
awesome.
is director of ops, office manager, DOOM. Okay. So she's not to be messed with.
Doom. I love that game.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Wow. I mean, it's just it's rare that it's a small program, Division III, to be able to have these things all kind of happening is really positive, I think, for the sport of wrestling.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And especially in Iowa, where there's like 30 colleges in this state. I mean,
well, listen, you think about this. Iowa and Pennsylvania have a high number of colleges competing. That there's no secret why it trickles down to the high schools and then the Pee Wee wrestling, right? The youth wrestling. Why are these some of the best wrestling states in the country? Because they see high level wrestling all the time. That is. I've said this for years about PA, man. They have the most Division I NCAA All-Americans and national champs coming out of their state. Oh, yeah. They see good wrestling all the time. Iowa is one of the best wrestling states in the country because they see good wrestling all the time. Mm-hmm. Typically, historically, right? It's the Hawkeyes. When you're born in this state, you get herky in your crib, right? You always grow up, you want to be a Hawkeye. Mm-hmm. That's never going to change. But that's not always realistic for everyone either. Mm-hmm. We want to give that option of doing high level wrestling. If you don't want to go to Iowa State or you don't want to go to UNI, great programs, moving in the absolute right direction, exciting time for college wrestling in this state. We want to add to that. We want to add our brand to that and our style, and not just the men and the women. You know, we want to put our mark on that as well. And so we're fortunate to have the backing of the institution, right? Iowa Wesleyan wants to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
They want to build a good team. So this is how we do it. You know, you got to pay to play, and they're willing to do that.
So what? How did this all happen for you? How did you land in Mount Pleasant? Like, was the position open? Like, I don't remember the position being posted out there. So for me, I'm like thinking, man, like this, you're really falling into a program that has a ton of support. Clearly,
Yeah.
That is fresh. So it's really great to hear. So how did you get this spot, man? How did you hear about this?
Well, I was coaching at my high school in Ohio. We were taking care of my grandmother as she, transitioned into her afterlife, whatever. She was passing away, and we want to allow her to do that in her home like she wanted. We granted that wish for her. It's amazing. We're very happy to have done that, and blessed to have my children around her at the end of her life. And I took a job coaching at my high school, St. John's Jesuit in Toledo, Ohio, and it was awesome. Like, we loved it. My family was, neck deep in the culture there. I graduated from there, and it was fun starting to build that program the right direction. But my goal was always to coach college wrestling. And so this job opened up, and I talked to Derek Zander about it early on. They wanted to meet with me and talk to me about it. I came out for an interview, and I met with a bunch of the coaches, and the football coach and I hit it off right away. The women's volleyball coach, we all have similar visions of how we want our programs to go. And it was awesome. I felt right at home when I got on campus, and then I left within 24 hours because they were shutting down for COVID.
Yeah.
So in that whole amount of time, the time that the state and Ohio were shut down, they closed our state tournament. I was still coaching the high school team leading up to the postseason. That ended, and then they shut down the state tournament, and then they canceled it, and I came out here. I had been talking to our athletic director, Bob Renee, and assistant AD Mike Schoen, and the president of the school, Mike Savona, about it all. And, the possibility of this happening. I talked to, again, Derek Zander and the president, Chris Plunkett, and the provost, Dwayne Frazier, about stuff. And, Derek Zander pushed it through during a crazy time in our country.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of it is, when he and I met, we definitely hit it off. He could see that I'm passionate and kind of fiery about stuff, and I met the school's vision of what they want in this position and moving forward. How we were going to build a program. So it was easy. It was an easy fit. We lived in Toledo, Ohio, and we love Iowa. We've always loved it. My daughter Layla was born in Ames and Mary Greeley when we coached at Iowa State. So we've always had ties here. And it's wrestling crazy. You said it,
Yeah.
It's real. The state of Iowa loves its wrestling. Farming and wrestling, man, are king here. And
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I want to be in a place like that? It's like coming to heaven, right?
Yeah, and one thing that I think is good about with Cash, I just remember him being multi-sport athlete
Yep.
and a high-level athlete, being from a small town and that recruiting aspect. So, I'm excited about those kind of conversations that he might be able to have. Be like, you don't have to go to D1 to, what is success in college? And
Right.
It's what you can do when you're in college, and then when you're out, and then obviously go on with your life. I mean, wins are great, right? But I'm having a more of appreciation for as a D3 wrestler for Division III wrestling and lower
Sure.
levels, because they all have their place and there's the right fit for each kid. So I'm excited for you guys. So for people that aren't familiar with you, your name, and me personally, so like I I stepped away from the sport when I graduated college for about 4 years, and you were at Iowa State for a year.
Correct.
How does your story? How do you become on staff with the Sandersons who were at Iowa State? And how did you land there?
That's a great question. I was coaching high school, and I started a wrestling club, Matt Rat's Wrestling Club in Ohio. And we had some pretty good dudes coming there. David Taylor, Logan Stieber, Hunter Stieber, Davion Caston, who won a couple of NAI national titles. And during that time, we put, 18 or 20 guys on a Division I level from our club. We had like 81 kids in our club. It started with like 12, and then we built it up over a 4-year span. And we went out to Vegas to wrestle in the Western Regional. And I took a couple guys there, and David Taylor and Logan obviously won. They're, world beaters, literally. And I talked to, I was friends with Joe Heskett. We grew up together wrestling, and some of the Ohio State guys. And Eric Burnett from Ohio was coaching some guys out there as well. And Cody, I've known those guys a long time, right? We're the same age. Actually, I'm a little bit older than those guys. So we talked about how our guys attack with the left hand, and that was a conversation in Vegas, right? We started kind of having a little dialogue out there about how we get people to score using the left hand, because 90% of people are right leg leads and right-handed, and they sweep right and they high crotch right and all. Well, at that point I was moving away from that, and this is like 2007, 2006, and Kale and Cody were out there, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I was considering going and working at Central Michigan, and because I sent a couple kids from my high school team and from my club up there to wrestle for Coach Borelli, who's a great guy and runs a great program. And I got to know Casey Cunningham over a couple years leading up to that. And Casey went to Iowa State then. And so that was another, huge pull for me. They reached out to me, and it was a lock, basically. Like, there was no question. Kale asked, he called, and I was like, no, who is this really? Kind of that whole funny, no, seriously, you're playing a prank on me thing. No, it was Kale. And my wife was like, no, dude, it's Kale Sanderson on the phone right now. You need to take this call. And I'm like, okay. Because I had a garage in my, a wrestling room in my garage, and we would go like run training sessions for Fargo and all that stuff 4, 5, 8 times a day. And we basically lived out there. So she came out to get me, and we talked for about an hour or so. And then Cody called and kind of got a feel for me and what my mindset was and how I, saw wrestling. And I'm very excitable. So I was probably getting like bouncy in my chair and freaking out a little bit here and there about things, because I'm just, I'm really excited, and some people call it passionate, whatever. My wife calls it crazy. It's fine. But I love wrestling. And so I get really excited about it, and I can't hold it down. That's just not in me. So, it was a good balance, like those guys are very mild-mannered men. They're great men, 100% honest and passionate about wrestling as well. But they're reserved. They're conservative guys. They know how to hold themselves. I lose that a little bit here and there, especially when my emotions start running. So, I balanced their emotions out a little bit. So it was a really good fit. We're still very, very good friends to this day. I talk to them as much as I possibly can. Kind of like Jake Cadle and I, we're like fire and ice, right? You're not this old, but it's kind of like Sub-Zero and Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like fire, and Jake's like ice. The Sandersons are cool as ice, and I was more like that fiery type of. It's just like Iowa and Penn State, man. Mentality wise. So that's a good fit. It was a great fit. They got me out there. I got into the volunteer assistant position. I was going to run the club, and then things worked out to where I would step in, and take over the volunteer assistant position and be a full-time, staff member. And obviously Kale asked me if that would be something I would consider. And it was not even a hesitation. Obviously I want to do whatever I could. I was in charge of the discipline, same thing at Penn State. I'd show up on Saturdays. I'd do anything I could for the program, because that's just how we commit. You're either committed 100% or, you're not. So I take notes on Kale's pre-practice speeches every single day, along with the managers that sat up in the bleachers. And when it was a decision to be made about going east or not, I talked to Coach Douglas about staying here. I was initially considering staying, I wanted to be with Kale and them because that was my guy, and Casey and those guys were all going, so I wanted to go, but I wasn't gonna, make that said. I wanted it to be the boss's decision. He asked me if I would want to go, and I would fit in as a strength coach there, which kind of helped run the strength program at Iowa State anyway. Casey and I, and Casey's wife's an Olympic gold medal weightlifting champion, so I mean she helped us out a lot, and so obviously, so when we transitioned over to the East Coast, that's what happened. And I got to keep wrestling into my, late 30s and stuff. I qualified for the Olympic trials in 2012 and stuff as a 38-year-old guy. And it was cool. I cannot tell you how thankful I am for those guys because they let me keep doing that stuff. And why do I want to do this was a question with Casey Cunningham all the time. And I was like, I just want to wrestle. That's all. I just want to wrestle. And I love doing my job here. So if it's going to cost me that, then there's obviously it's something that I won't do, but as long as you will have me and let me do this, then I'm going to do it. And my wife was like, you're insane. What are you doing? But she supported me, and Kale and Cody and Casey supported me. We got to move out to Pennsylvania with letters in them. So we all kind of fit in really well together. And that was, that's kind of how your break from wrestling happened for me. We got to Penn State. We started implementing our program that first year. We lost some kids. We had some attrition that first year, but everybody understood that it was a team, and Penn State wrestling would be best served by everybody, getting on board with that plan and wrestling for bonus points, doing what they could do. If you can win by 5, win by 8, try to win by 8. If you're winning by 8, try to win by 12 or try and get the tech, and always look for the fall. And implementing that plan from the time we got to Iowa State, I remember the meetings where we would discuss that plan, how we were going to get the most out of our athletes and how we could form that around Kale's mindset when he was competing and through college and in the Olympics, and how he dealt with all that stuff that he was going through, and how we would translate that to all of our athletes. And I'd say it worked out pretty well for them. So they're doing good. So yeah, it still is.
Still doing good.
So yeah, exactly. So and I suspect that they're going to continue to do that.
How many years were you there?
I was there. I was at Iowa State for 1 year and Penn State for 5 years.
5 years. Okay.
Yeah, we won 4 national titles that time too, so it was crazy.
And were you competing all 4 of those
I got shoulder surgery in my last year, so no.
Okay.
But yeah, I was basically in and out.
So as you're getting older
Yep.
in the sport, who are some guys that came in your room and you're like, oh crap, like this kid's gonna be tough, or like was there ever a kid that you're just like, damn, this kid's 19 years old. This kid's 18 years old. Was there anybody like that?
Nico Megaludis was number 1. That kid was, and then Zane Redford. Zane came in, and I watched him wrestle Cody, and I was like, I'm not wrestling him. There's no way, dude. He's going to hurt somebody. I can't wait to watch this kid compete. Same thing with Nico. Nico's practice pace was absurdly high, obscenely high. Like I don't think he had any other gear but full go. Not saying he couldn't drill or any of that stuff. Nico Megaludis was a training machine.
He's so hard to score on.
Oh, well, he's flexible. I'm telling you, he was in some of the best shape. David Taylor's shape is insane. Like, honestly, I know that his pace gets a lot of credit, but his conditioning is off the charts. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Nico. When those guys are there, and it goes back to the plan. Like, honestly, those guys are get all the credit, but the plan that Kale and Cody and Casey and those guys have put in, Jake Varner now, right, is very good. It gets them ready. They feel their best when they need to be at their best. So training, recovery, rest, nutrition. The guys that go there, they buy in, and that's why they get the results they get. They're not really focused on those results. It doesn't matter, because with the gold medal or without it, they're the same guy. And that you don't see that very, very often at a lot of places, right? They got to have that victory. Mm-hmm. And that kind of sets a program up and kids up in general up for failure, rather than focusing on what you can do and your effort and controlling what you can control. It makes things a lot more fun and easier to have fun. And so, you hear them saying that.
Yeah, there's a while there where they're just, we're just having fun,
Yeah.
where our practices are fun, they're light, they're easy. And I was always like, man, this is wrestling. So, I mean,
we make wrestling harder in our minds, right? We put pressure on ourselves in practice. We do that because we build that stuff up. Because my generation, we didn't ask. I tried to ask, and my dad was my coach in high school. And then after that, they would be like, run through that wall. Well, can't we go over it? Yeah, no. Go. I told you run through that wall. So I'd be smashing my head into that wall like, there's got to be a different way to do this. as long as you can provide them with a why, then they'll be willing to do it. Nowadays, you know, kids hear that from Penn State, like we're having fun. It's wrestling. It doesn't have to be. It's hard. It's going to be hard. Training is hard. Trying to do your best every day is hard. But that doesn't mean it's not fun. And so as coaches and as mentors and you know, people working with younger people even, we got to instill that in their minds, because that'll change. Wrestling, like you were saying earlier, wrestling is our vehicle to later. Wrestling is not going to keep our lights on or feed us later in life. You know, very select few people get to do that. So we need to take the concepts that wrestling teaches us and put ourselves in those successful situations, right? Where we're not going to set ourselves up for failure. We're going to set ourselves up for success. Focus on the things you can control, and then don't worry about that other stuff, because then you're just wasting your energy. That makes things a lot easier, a lot lighter, and then you can focus on the things that are good, like having fun, smiling, enjoying it, coloring. You know what I mean? Like that's why we started this, because it was fun. People don't get to where they were at in wrestling because it was super hard from the time you are in diapers or the time you barely fit into wrestling shoes and you walk onto that Wrestlite and you're like, oh, this is terrible. You know, those kids typically don't make it.
Yeah, they get burnt out.
Exactly.
So, for all you guys that are listening, if you got any questions for Coach, drop them in the comment section. We'll try to get them asked here as the show gets wrapped up. So thank you for everybody that's tuning in here from Iowa Wesleyan, and some new people from Iowa Wrestle, and the loyal listeners. So if you got any questions, drop them in the comment section. So in regards to practices, and I try to talk to coaches as much about this, is that, you know, everyone's got different philosophies. And you have a unique perspective because, you know, you've been outside of Iowa. Obviously, you've been coached behind one of the greatest coaches of all time at the collegiate level, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And so you kind of can see what's working out there. And when it comes to duration of practices, do you believe in like hour and a half long practices, 3 hour long practices? How do you like to kind of
see you had this conversation like on your podcast a week or so ago, right? 2 weeks ago maybe. I guess it doesn't matter, right? We're flexible. It's about what the athletes need and when they need it. So, you know, I think it was Antonelli was talking about it a week ago or so, about how at this time of the year we're going to practice this long. At this time of the year we're going to practice this long. I don't buy into that. I mean, it's great if that's the success they're getting, and obviously, what are you going to do? You're not going to talk about Blair not having success at the high school or pre-college level. You're not. They're great, you know, and that's great. I'm not gonna pigeonhole myself into okay, so we're at this portion of the season. We're going to have 2 hour practices or 3 hour practices because we got to get all this stuff in. No. Because what happens if the athletes start nodding off, you know, or they're obviously not getting anything out of that. So we're going to gauge that by how they feel, what we're doing that day, what's the training situation looking like, what's our competition schedule looking like. And that's why, like I said, next year when we have a lot more control over our competition schedule and stuff, it'll be built around, you know, peaks and valleys with their physical training and stuff like that, because this is the most important stuff. And then the competition is just the fun. So what my answer to that question as far as practice times go, it just depends on the athletes and what their needs are that day. Typically we'll have a plan and we can adjust that on the fly if we need to, because you got to make mid-match adjustments. You got to make mid-practice adjustments. You got to be able to gauge your athletes and say, okay, the men need to be pushed a little bit harder today. The women need to be pushed a lot harder today. So we're not going to cut it off at an hour and 30 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes or two, whatever. We're going to keep going, or we're going to have the women put their sweats on and start working technique, and the men will start doing conditioning, whatever that looks like. The beauty of having the wrestling minds that we are putting together, and again, our own facility where we don't have a time where we have to get out of there, is we can adjust it. What if kids have class during that time? Or what if they got a big test coming up and they need to study? We have the flexibility and the mindset ability to, okay, well, we can't have them in this practice. We're not married to any one specific plan. Let's have them come in at 11 if they have that break. And rather than getting their nap today, they can get their practice in at that time. They can get their nap during practice and do their studying and get everything they need to be done for their classes. You know, so that is going to be something that we can offer student athletes that other people won't, because they are married to their plans, right? They have had success doing it this way. And, I'm more of a like, let's morph. Let's do what the athletes need and get the most out of them every single day, because then by the time competition rolls around, they're at their best.
Yeah, they're happy.
Exactly. And trained.
Do you, you got 4 girls?
Yep.
You got 4 girls. How?
15, 14, 11, and 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do they wrestle? Do you have experience coaching girls?
Yes, I do have experience coaching girls, not my own. My 14-year-old daughter, Kyrie, was wrestling with us at Maryland in the club. She was starting out and doing some wrestling, and she hit one of those, European step, that outside step, high crotch, and her ear hit me in the hip. She was doing it on me. Her ear smacked me in the hip, and she instantly bruised. And my wife was like, "You're done. We're not, that's it. I'm not having you." Yep. She didn't get it.
Okay.
She didn't get it, but the potential for her to get it was there. And that ended that whole scenario right there. Now, my 6-year-old, she may be, although I'm worried about her punching somebody, I'm not really worried about that. She might be a wrestler. My 11-year-old tried it. She did it for like 3 years. She loved it. But, I would say promote. My parenting is more of like, you find your thing. You don't have to jump on board because this is my thing. My family loves wrestling. My daughters will be like managers and help out. They did that last year. They are my oldest daughter, Rhiannon, she's very good at that. She's very good at managing track wrestling and getting people where they need to be during competitions. So she's going to help us do that too. And we'll have another manager or two as far as college age people go, but she's very good at that. So they will have something to do with our program, but not actually competing or wrestling.
What do you think is going to be the biggest difference between, or maybe there's none, what's the biggest difference between coaching women, coaching men, recruiting women into a program like this? What have you been seeing with talking to, because women's wrestling is in a different place than men's wrestling as far as opportunities go. So what's that balance been like for you?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, right? Because women are going to wrestle freestyle. And so we're looking a little bit broader for them. We want them wrestling way past season, right? So even at this level, we do have some dual sport athletes, and talking to them about running track or running cross country and then transitioning into wrestling. On the women's side, I would suggest more maybe that they would try and run cross country as opposed to track, because in the spring, that's the time we're going to be making those national teams and world teams. And so that's kind of going to be a focus for us, right? We're going to peak through those freestyle national events, right? Because they're training and wrestling freestyle all the time. Whereas our men may need a break after the season. And by a break, I mean like 3 to 5 days only, because we love wrestling. We're coming here to wrestle. We ain't coming here to take time off. We're not coming here to be stair masters or like cyclists. We are coming here to be on the mat to compete. So yeah, I mean, we're going to take some of that, a little bit of different mindset when it comes to those things. But other than that, like I said, the message is the same, right? We want them to do their best. We want them to have the highest goals they possibly can. Is that going to work out for everybody? Obviously, it's not going to work out for everybody. Not everybody's David Taylor. Not everybody is Brent Metcalf, who's coming out here. You know what I mean? Not everybody are these people.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you can't come in the room and train like you're going to be one of them. You should have that mindset. Everyone should, one of the taglines for Iowa is they're not happy because they didn't win 10 national championships. Every kid on their team didn't win an NCAA title. We're going to train that way because I don't see a reason not to be the best. Try to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, if you come in and you're like, well, I'm only this good, so I'm just whatever, then you're accepting mediocrity, and not just in wrestling, but in our country, that's a disease as far as I'm concerned. And that is something that we will not tolerate. The medicine for that is do better, better never rests, whatever the tagline you want to use for that is. But the reality of it is we will not abide by mediocrity. We are going to aim for the ultimate prize and do our best every day going for that. We want 100% program success, men, women, whatever. Getting better every day is that, if you focus on effort and not results. But we're going to train to be planetary champions. And if we, there's a shirt Iowa had, until we find life out there a couple years ago, where they're like, we want to conquer the planet, and if we find life out there, then we'll go for the universe, whatever it is. That was one of my favorite shirts.
I've seen that.
It was pretty cool. It was at the NCAA's. I think we won the nationals that year, so I just glanced at it a little bit, but no, that's the truth though. We're all going to come and train to be national, world, Olympic champions, and then we'll fall where we fall.
One other thing with the men's and women's program is there's a natural men and women, obviously, in the same room, relationships form. Mm-hmm. How do you plan to do you see that be an issue, or what's the message to your athletes to be like yes or no, I guess, type of deal?
Absolutely. No, I get it. That is typically you'd think that was going to be an issue, but if again, we're a family, so that would be weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's going to be the message is, obviously, if things happen, these are men and women, and we have to treat them as that, even as opposed to being high school kids where they're going to develop different types of relationships with women that would be training on their team or in their room. It is what it is. We're gonna expect them to make the best decisions possible, and understanding that there's consequences. You know what I mean? And there's gonna be feelings after things happen, one way or the other. It would be weird for me to say there's not gonna be some attraction at first, maybe, but understand that you're gonna be training in the same room, doing almost the exact same stuff all the time together, and that's a lot at this age. It's a lot,
100%.
So I would suggest you look at these people like your sisters rather than your girlfriends. Mm-hmm. There's other people on campus. There's other sports. You can go, and we will be at all that. We're going to go to football games as a unit. We're going to spend a lot of time together. So I would be naive to say that may not happen. Mm-hmm. However, understand what you're doing, right? You understand what's going to happen here. And then if things go bad, and typically at this age they will, then you understand that you're still not going to, your relationship can't change because this is where we're at. So we got to coach them, and that's where we're all going to come into play here. We got to coach them to make the right decisions all the time, not just on, partying or missing homework or classes or dating their 106 pounder or whatever it might be, that's
gonna be a
tough.
distraction. That's one thing that I'd, as a coach, I'd be worried about it. But if
but what do you think about that though, right? If you look at it like your sister, you do not want to date your sister.
Probably not.
Hopefully not. Right? Like so we're family. We're all here for each other. We're all doing the same similar stuff. Our focus is all similar. So then that limits your distractions almost immediately, right? Being in Mount Pleasant, a small town, that also is limiting the distractions. If you want to go out and find distractions, you're probably not coming to the right place.
Yep.
And if you're looking for a girlfriend on the wrestling team, or you're looking for a boyfriend on the wrestling team, that may or may not happen. But the fact of the matter is, understanding you're professional here. This is the highest level we can get to outside of the Olympic Games, right? So we are going to act accordingly. And whatever, stuff you got going on outside of this room, when you come into this room, it's business as usual. And that means school, study table, wrestling practice, weightlifting, running, whatever we're doing. You're not going to be, making out on the bleachers or any of that stuff. That's not going to happen. We're not going to, because that's a quick way to get out of here and lose your place on something that's going to be special, something that we're trying to build that's special. And that's how we do it. We make the right decisions. You're going to find love. You got a long life for any of that stuff. You got a long life to do a lot of things, right? Right now, let's spend our time trying to do our best and be our best and making, Tiger Nation the best.
So another, sticking with women's wrestling here, in Iowa, it's not sanctioned yet. Right. Trying to get some steps to get towards that. Other states are there, right? Already there. And we're gonna need leaders, not just at the collegiate, at the high school level, but collegiate level as well. Sure. Is there a message for you for people in the position to maybe make those decisions or push those forward to like, hey, we should sanction women's wrestling, that would help you, I guess? What are some things what would be your message of like why and like, what are some steps that we need to make sure that we do prior to doing that maybe another state made a mistake?
Sure. I had a long talk with Vanessa Oswald, who's in charge of USA Wrestling Ohio, right? She's big on that, and Ohio's sanctioning women's wrestling right now too. I'm all for it. The reality of it is we need as many opportunities as we can for women to compete, for women to be on teams. I think, and this could be way off base, but I think by sanctioning the sport, you open that avenue up for women's teams at high schools and more opportunity for people to compete and more opportunity for them to get introduced to the sport even younger now, and so it will be like Pee Wee wrestling. It may not be at Wells Fargo Arena and AAU state tournament that is run like any high school state tournament in this state, but it will get there, because it's a fast growing sport and it's Olympic sport, and you have women like Helen Maroulis, Shakara Winchester, Adeline Gray, who women can look at and be like, oh yeah, these are my heroes, and I want to be like them, and it's important for states, not just Iowa, especially states like Iowa, to sanction that, to give them those opportunities. As far as being a college coach, it's easy to go to the state tournament and recruit. It's easy to go, okay, we're at the quarterfinals. These are the 8 or 10 or 12 people that I'm pinpointing to watch, right? So that's like a college coach's, dream. It's a buffet of talent and future talent. So as far as that goes, it makes it easy for us to go pick out the people, you can see them on the sidelines too when they're getting ready or after their match, how they're reacting. So that's good for college programs to see. And again, the more colleges that have women's wrestling, the more you want them to have opportunities prior to college, right? So we can get Iowa girls to come and wrestle as Iowa women at our schools. And I'm all for sanctioning women's wrestling at the state level, for sure, high school state level.
Yeah, I think our state's a little bit, we're definitely behind, and hopefully we can get some stuff done in the next year. Our numbers doubled here as far as the girls' state tournament, and I expect them to double again.
Sure.
With being a broader push for the head coaches that have men's programs right now to try to find someone that can lead that charge. All right. One last question here before we go. If you got any, again, drop them in the comment section. But I'm a recruit. I've been to 3 other schools. Iowa Wesleyan's just getting started. Why should I go to Iowa Wesleyan?
Well, it's good to be a part of tradition, right? That makes you feel good. You're going to be part of something that's good, right? It's already established. It's solid. We're doing something special here, and our message is faith and family first, and then control what you can control. So when you come to Mount Pleasant and you step on campus, number one, you're getting a live wire in me and someone that's going to do anything you need done. I'm going to run it down. I'm not saying that's going to work out every time. That's not realistic, but I'm going to break my neck trying, right? I will run down anything I can. I will put in the hours, minutes, days, weeks, months, whatever to have these student athletes experience success. And this is real, like concrete feel, right? You come here to Iowa Wesleyan, you're going to be a part of something special. That doesn't mean we're going to win national title right now this year. We're going to try for sure. And that is fun. And building these relationships, testing yourself and having everyone in your program on the same page, that is not typical, right? You have a chance to come and cement the legacy of not only yourself and these people that are standing around you, but for generations to come. And that's awesome. You do not see that every day right now. You cannot be a part of that often. And especially with, like we were talking about earlier, the backing, the support, the community support, the state is anxious to see it, if you would like to come and be a part of something special, something new, obviously, and like building the pyramid, we're laying that first level, and we're looking to go all the way up to the sky like that. We're gunning for the top spot. However long that takes, we're willing to do it. But the reality of it is, we will not celebrate mediocrity. We are going to train to be the best every single day and focus on the process. And it's going to be fun for us.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate you having me.
If there is someone out there right now that's wants to know how to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way iwtigers.com. Is that what's the
Yeah,
best
they
way
can.
to find you?
Well, they can. Obviously, you can go on the website and message me. You can email, text, whatever. But I'm pretty available. If you want to stop down to Mount Pleasant, come on. Make sure you bring a mask because things are still kind of crazy. But
You guys are allowing people on campus?
No.
Okay.
no, but you can come and meet me.
Okay.
And then we can discuss it in person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For a little bit. 6 feet of separation. But you could come and check out the wrestling room and stuff like that. But the reality of it is, you can email me. My contact information is on the website, and I'm anxious to hear from anyone.
Sounds good. Well, that's been Coach Contos. Big news today that came out earlier this morning. The press release is on their website as well. It's on iWrestle. Cash Wilkie, Stephen Holloway, Jake Cato, former Hawkeyes, joining forces with some Penn State love, I guess Iowa State, whatever you want to call it, joining together. And I like the idea of an Iowa Penn State kind of the two. Be interesting to see how that all kind of that plays out on the mat. But obviously 2 successful programs, 2 successful mindsets. So looking forward to that. All right, if you missed any part of the show, you can go back anytime. This will be archived instantly on Rockfin, also on Facebook. If you got any questions or anything for Coach, drop in the comment section. I'll be happy to pass it along to him if he doesn't see it. And if you need help getting in contact with Coach, you can put it in the comment section. I'll private message you. I'll get you in touch with Coach or the assistant coaches or whatnot. So looking forward to a brand new program getting started in Iowa. We can never have enough programs, I think, in our state. We have to be one of the leaders of our state. I'm gonna ask one more question because we were talking about doing this. And so I was at a golf event, and there's everyone has like a golf event for their team, right? Or they do a fundraiser.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on having a golf event and then having one school at each hole? So like you would be hole 1, hole 2 would be Central College, and blah blah blah. They'd be all over, and you get to have your own little fundraiser at each hole. So you might be longest drive, and if you get a hole in a hula hoop, you get a certain prize. What are your thoughts on like the state coming together for a golf tournament?
Theoretically, it sounds good. I don't know how Coach Brands and Coach Schwab would handle that. Who gets hole 1, who gets hole 9, who's on the 18th, right? Who gets the clubhouse? That would be kind of like, are there going to be a wrestling match to get that work that logistically out? If so, I want in. That sounds amazing, right? Is St. John going to battle one of the dudes? You know what I mean? Like it would be so funny. I think it theoretically sounds great, and that would be a great showcase of the colleges in Iowa. Obviously, you'd probably have to do a couple of them because there's more than 18. So
there's more than 18.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. So, but whatever. I mean, definitely be interested in doing something like that. And then at the same time, we could have a social afterwards where everybody could get together and we could pick each other's brains, or Coach Gable would probably get hole 1 just for the record.
Yeah.
Or AT, whatever he would want. But yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Again, you would definitely have your work cut out for you logistically.
Yeah, I think just getting so that's what I was thinking. Like, what's the likelihood of getting every school to commit? Hopefully at some point everybody wants to be on it, right? But so we get 18 colleges to commit. We're doing pretty well. And I just look at it as there's lots of people in wrestling that might not be. They might be a Hawkeye fan, but they still love the other sports, and they'll be, okay, here's $5, here's $10, here's $20 for just a stupid game, but that's money that you just weren't getting from that person before. So that's kind of where my thought process is, and just to get different fans from other sports or from other schools that kind of support each other. I think it'd be kind of fun. So
it'd be awesome.
We'll see if we can. I sometimes I have crazy ideas, but I think,
might be intense though. But that's cool.
I think that one would be kind of fun. So all right, let's wrap up the show. Again, thanks, Coach, for everything that you're doing. Kudos to taking over program, and kudos to the people down in Mount Pleasant supporting this. I mean, this is what you got going on. 3 coaches, new facilities, director of ops, all in one building. That just doesn't happen very often at D3 school. So I'm looking forward to what you guys are going to do. Again, you can look back at the show anywhere on Rockfin, on Facebook. And next week, we got Brett Metcalf, Iowa State. We talked with William Miklas on Hager's Happy Hour a couple weeks ago, just a little about his relationship, and Brett Metcalf opening up a little bit out of that Iowa Hawkeye shell that he was in, now at Iowa State, having a little bit more fun maybe. So looking forward to kind of hearing some stories for him and what they got planned at Iowa State going forward, how they're recruiting at the D1 level, how they're competing in this time of COVID. So looking forward to Coach Metcalf next week right here on Potentially Dangerous.
Boy.